Hey Guitar fam and friends, I hope you are doing well. I'm excited about this lesson because it's kind of kicking off a new era of the YouTube channel here, and that's going to be for famous solos. And I figured why not start with the Bob Marley tune, No Woman, No Cry. I didn't know who played this solo, but I've always been a big fan of it, and it's Al Anderson, I believe was his name. It's really good solo. It's really awesome if you want to work on improvising with your major pentatonic scales. It covers actually all 5 of the major pentatonic scale, and it throws in some notes from the major scale here and there. We'll talk more about that as we get into this solo. If you want the jam track and the tab for it, go to guitarfam.com. The link is in the description below. And if you need help with anything a little bit in a deeper way, you can always schedule a personal private one-on-one lesson with me on the Guitar Fam site. The first one is complimentary, so there's no risk. All right, let's get into this. This solo uses 4 out of the 5 major pentatonic scales, so it's a really great exercise if you're wanting to get better at improvising with major pentatonics. And the first one that it starts off with is the one with the lowest root note on the D string, in this case the C sharp on the 11th fret. And the chord I think about when I'm playing this is this D. And the next one up is this one that uses the C major shape, and it starts with the pinky with the lowest root note on the A string, and that'll be 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. And then the one below that is just the standard one that most people think of when they think of a major pentatonic scale. 6-string root note starting middle finger. The one that uses the E shape as its chord, and the last one is the one that uses the G shape as its chord, and it's the one that most people think of as a minor pentatonic scale shape. Right? When you start on your pinky, it's a major pentatonic. Okay, so just keep an eye out for those. I'll put these up on the screen as we go by, as the scale we're using changes with each lick. So it starts off with the first one we went over, the one based on the D shape. But you start off on the 13th fret of the A string and then go to the 11th fret. So 13, 11, and then kind of roll your finger over to the 11th fret of the D string. So that's kind of the intro, like some vibrato. And then from there, hit 13 with your 3rd finger and slide up to 15. And that puts us in this C shape for a little while. So, and then you just walk up the scale here for a little bit, 13 to 15 on the G. And then normally I play these next 2 notes with my 2nd and 4th fingers, but this time, because of what's coming up, I play 14, 16 with my 1st and 3rd fingers. And that's because as soon as I hit that 16, I had to have a full step bend with some vibrato. So far you have. And then the next little lick stays on this scale shape, but we add a note in from the major scale. We add the 4th scale degree in right here on the 14th fret of the high E string, and then the 16th fret of the high E string. And then you roll over to get the 16th fret of the B string, full step, with a little bit of vibrato, and back to 14 on the B string. So, and the major pentatonic is this. So we're going 1, 2, 3, 5 with the pentatonic, but this lick is 1, 2, 4, and then 5. So that's the big difference there. We're just adding in that 4th. And there's a lot of that going on in this solo. You'll hear it again. So let me play the whole thing for you there. And then from there you go 15, 13, and on the G string, and then 15 on the D string. And I kind of slide down and out, just out as far as I want, because I'm gonna slide back up here in a second. And the purpose of this slide is not only stylistic, but it's also to get you into a different position or different scale shape. So I slide down from 15, I overshoot it on purpose, then I slide back up to 10 on the G string, and that puts me on the 6-string root note C major pentatonic scale, this one. So I slide into it, and then I have 11 on that same string with my third finger, and then 9 on the B string, and then 9 on the high E string. So I go, and all I'm doing is outlining a triad from this E shape. So slide in, and I'm adding the fourth in that note right here with my third finger is the fourth of the scale again. But other than that, I'm just really sliding up a triad. And then you have this double stop lick where you need to put your finger on the 9th fret of both the high E and B strings. And we're kind of doing that already. When you're playing those two notes, just use your index finger to get both of them, kind of roll it over. But then after that, you have this double stop lick where you hit the 9th fret of both of those strings and hammer onto the 11th fret with your third finger. And then do it again, but hammer on and pull off. And then the 11th fret of the G string and the 9th fret of the B string by itself. So that from the slide on the 10th fret will be. And then you have this lick that's a little bit strange, and I like to use hybrid picking for this next lick. All you have to do is start off with the 9th fret again of both the high E and B strings. Pick it, hammer onto the 11th fret, and you want to stay set up like this with your index finger. I end up plucking that with my middle finger, that 9th fret of the B, and then I pick the 11th fret of the D string, and I flatten my third finger out, hit the 11th fret of the B string, pluck with my middle finger, back to the 11th fret of the D with my pick, then my pinky gets the 12th fret of the B, again with the pick on the 11th fret of the D string. Let off with your pinky, back to the 11th fret of the B, and then back to the 11th fret of that D string. And then that kind of completes the lick. Let me play that for you. So let me do it one more time, a little slower. And from there, we're still on the same scale shape. And we're just, I almost see that as going to C minor pentatonic for a little bit. Or you could think of it as C major pentatonic, we're just putting in the 5th on top, the 6th on top, and then you have this flat 7. It makes it feel like a minor pentatonic, right? After that, the next little lick is the 9th fret of the high E string, and really, I leave my index finger flattened out here because I have to come back to the 9th fret of the G string, hit it, and hammer on, and then grab the 11th fret of the D string. So I'm still just really outlining this triad. Or this arpeggio, out and pulling that out of the major pentatonic scale that's there. And let me play that for you all the way through because we change scales shapes after that. Let's go from that slide on the 15th fret down. And from there, you come just shift up to where your index finger is on the 11th fret of the A string and hit it twice. And the first one is staccato. Then 13 with your third finger on the A, 11 on the D string, back to 13 on the A, 11 with your index on the D again, and then you hit 13 on the D and slide up with some vibrato, and then 13, 15, 13 on the G string, and then 14, 16, 14, 14 on the B string. And I use my first and third fingers here because of all the bending that's coming up. So, and I do some vibrato, and then 15, 13 on the G string again, and this is where the bending comes in. So 14, and I'll stop there and play that lick up to that point for you so far because there's a lot of bending coming up. So if I come down to where I shifted up to 11 on the A string, okay, and then from there I'm set up to do this bend. I go full step bend on 16 of the B string with my third finger. I'm using all three fingers to push up. And then I hit the 16th fret of the high E string with my pinky. So full step bend, and then let it ring out over each other. And then I do another bend, full step bend on 16, but I bend it up and let it down. So, and then I come back here, shift to where my pinky's on the 14th fret of the B string, play that by itself, and then my third finger comes down on the 13th fret of the G string, and I hold this 14th here with my pinky, but my third finger grabs that 13th fret of the G string, does a full step bend and lets it back down. You really have to keep your pinky still there for this to sound right. And once you do that bend, just realize that you're in that major pentatonic scale, but you already also have your hand set up for this next lick that's coming up. So all you have to do is slide your hand down to where your pinky is on the 9th fret and your third finger is on the 8th fret. And do that same bend. Pinky stays still, hit both strings, the B and the G string, but you're gonna bend this 8th fret up a full step and let it back down. Then hit the 6th fret of the G string, and then the 8th fret of the D string. And this, we jumped back here and we're using this major pentatonic scale shape right here. So let me play that whole bending sequence and we'll get into the next part. Come down here. And as soon as you do that, you go back to where your third finger's on the 8th fret, pinky is on the 9th fret, and you do another full step bend, but this time you're gonna do it 6 times, and you're gonna do it to a triplet fill, so just like that. So bending up, letting it down. And then once you do that, you have the 8th fret by itself, but you're gonna bend a step and a half this time. And then after that, you let it down a little bit to where it's only a full step bend. So step and a half, let it back down a little bit to a full step, and then let it back down to rest. 6 of the G string, D string, 8, back to 6 on the G string with some vibrato. So we play that whole last long sequence with a bending in there for you. So. So you're doing a lot of traveling, but if you can see those shapes with the chords and the pentatonic scales, it's really good practice for playing this type of playing in general. All right, this next lick is my favorite lick in the whole solo just because it's super bluesy sounding. And here you go. Okay, and it starts off in this position, the one with your lowest root note, pinky, of the low E string on the 9th fret. So, but it takes advantage of this, minor pentatonic shape and feel, and those are bluesy looking, even though we're playing a C sharp major pentatonic. So bend the 8th fret up of the G string a full step with your third finger. Use all your fingers to bend, and then you're going to lay your index finger over the 6th fret of the B and high E string, but you don't want to play both at the same time. You don't want them both ringing out. So play the 6th fret of the B, roll it over to the 6th fret of the high E, and you kind of want to mute that B string as you move to the high E string so it doesn't ring out. So, and then you go 9, 6 on the B string with a pull off, 8 on the G string, 6 on the B string, and then 6 on the G string. So that first little bit is. And then you kind of repeat the first few notes, bend on the 8, 6 on the B, 6 on the B, another pull off from 9 to 6, 8 on the G, 6 on the B, and that's where it stops as far as the similarities. Now you kind of transition into a little bit different part. So you what you do is you bar the 6th fret of the D and G strings, play them, and then hammer on to the 8th fret of the D string, then the 6th fret of the D string. And then what you do is you slide down to the 6th fret of the A string, like that on the beat, from the 8th fret, then 4. And we've kind of transitioned into another pentatonic scale shape here. And I guess we're hitting all 5 pentatonic scale shapes. I didn't realize this one, but that's pretty cool. So 8 to 6, and then 4 of the A, 6, 4 of the E, and then flatten your index finger out to hit 4 of the A, 6, and that's it for that last, the 5th pentatonic scale shape. It's just there for a second. Then from 6, you slide up to 8, and then you go 6, 8 on the D string, and then the end of this little phrase is a 6th fret with your index finger on the G string with some vibrato. So let me play that whole bluesy lick for you. And there's one thing that I forgot to mention to you. As soon as you start doing this, I'll show you when I get there. As soon as you hit that, you start swinging the notes. So right here, he starts swinging the notes right there, and as soon as he hits that 6th fret of the G string, that's when the swing stops. And this next little lick stays with this major pentatonic scale, and all you do is bar with a little mini bar with your index finger on the 6th fret of the B and high E strings, hit both of them at the same time, hammer onto the 7th fret of the B string with your middle finger, and then hit 6 again of just the B string, then hammer on, pull off 7, 6. So hit 6, hammer on to 7, pull off to 6 again, 8th fret of the G string, 3rd finger, 6th fret of the B string, 1st finger, and then you're gonna want to flatten it out so you can bar and swivel over to the 6th fret of the G string, and then let it roll over even more to the 6th fret of the D string, and just play 6th fret of the D, and hammer on and pull off to the 8th fret and then back to the 6th. So 6, hammer to the 8, pull to 6. So let me play that little lick for you. And from there, you're set up for the next lick too. You just grab your 9th fret of the B and high E strings with your pinky, hit both of them, and leave your pinky kind of where it is, and grab the 8th fret of the G string, hit the G and B strings together. Kind of the same idea with this country bending stuff. So bend the 8th fret up a whole step and let it back down. Then 6th fret of the G string, 8th fret of the D string with your 3rd finger, and back to the 6th fret of the G string with your 1st finger twice, and then just put some vibrato on it. Okay, let me play that whole last big phrase from the little blues lick all the way to here. Here you go. All right, this next little lick is a harmony line that uses some C major and C minor chord shapes that's just kind of harmonizing the major scale. So it starts off with the 1st fret of the D string, slides into the 3rd fret of the D string with your middle finger, and then your index finger comes back here and hits the 2nd fret of the B string. So, and I do hybrid pick this just because it makes it less room for error when I do it like that, I feel. But all I'm doing is taking this C sharp major chord that uses the C shape and pulling these 2 notes out of it. That's it. And then I hit that note again and slide up 1 fret with my middle finger to the 4th fret. And then my 3rd finger comes here and grabs the 4th fret of the B string. And this is using kind of a C minor chord shape, right? And then I hit this note twice that my middle finger is already fretting. And I slide up 2 more frets, and I maintain this shape, slide up to the 6th fret, maintain the shape, and my 3rd finger is on the 6th fret of the B string. So let me play that whole thing for you. twice here. You can put a little vibrato on it on all these too. One more time. From there, we have to jump all the way up to the 9th fret of the high E and B string, and we're switching back to this major pentatonic scale shape. So, right? Bar that, and you're gonna play. You're gonna hit both of them, and then I'll hammer on to the 11th fret of just the B string, and then hit just the 9th fret of the B, then 11 of the G, and then both nine of both the high E and B strings, and then from there, index finger rolls over to the 9th fret of the G string, which is just the lower third of the chord. We're gonna hammer on right away to get that lower third up to the major third, and then 11 of the D string, which is just the root. So this lick. And here, to end things off, we have another harmonized line, and all we're using this time is E minor and E major shapes. And what you do is you come up here to the 13th fret of the G string and the 13th fret of the high E string, and I hybrid pick this again. And then you slide this down to the 11th fret of the same strings. And then you have to, those are minor shapes, right? So if we were in C sharp major, you'd have C sharp major, D sharp minor, E sharp minor, right? So you could see minor bar chord, major bar chord is the next thing. So the last one, C sharp major. So your middle finger is going to be on the 10th fret of the G string, and your index finger is going to be on the 9th fret of the high E string, and that's the main harmony line there. And from there, you just play 9, hammer on to 11, and back to 9, and that is it. So let me play that whole little harmony line for you. So let me play that whole last phrase that has the harmonized lines on it. So here you go. Okay, that does it for the song. Here it is one more time with the tab for you. If you have any questions, I'd be more than happy to answer them for you in the comments, or you can email us support@guitarfam.com. And if you haven't created your complimentary Guitar Fam account, go to guitarfam.com and do that today. Every Guitar Fam member gets a personal, private, one-on-one lesson with me, and the first one is complimentary. I'll see you guys later. Have a good day.